Kala, Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Brakatahal, Brakatahal Shai, Brakatahal, Brakatahal Shai, Brakatahal, Brakatahal Shai, Tawada, Abba, Kadash. I like to give the honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone that teaches truth, which we know is 100% truth, the true word of our Lord. Do an early morning lesson. It's a Sabbath. And just want to that we have to be very mindful of the time that we in. Um, there's never been a time like this before when the world has been in a predicament where it's so close to being brought to an end, the end of this whole world cycle. You know, the rulers of this world, and as Revelations, it tells us about the beast and his head being wounded, and for 1,000 years. So the beast was ruling from the time of Alexander the Great, or so-called the Great, Alexander the Free, to the beast was wounded for a while. That's when the Moors went in and ruled in Europe for a time period, which they call it label as the Dark Ages. Then after that, when Cristobal Columbus was sent out, and he came over to the as we know as the Americas, and so-called discovered the Americas, which we know we were already here. The Northern Kingdom was already in the Americas before Cristobal Colon came over there. Shalaki, I got these clothes in my mouth. But like I said, during that time on, you know, they've been ruling. They've actually been ruling since Alexander the Great, because it tells you that his four generals will rule over the earth, will rule during that time, and the evils were multiplied on the earth. And let's pull that up. Shalaki, bear with me for a second. It's going through the spirit this morning. Let me see what Daniel's had, the book of Daniel's had right quick. But I know it's in the Apocrypha. But as soon as he established his kingdom, will be broken up and parceled out towards the four winds of the heaven, and it will not be as descendants, nor will I have authority to rule, because the kingdom is uprooted and given to others. Okay, that might tie into what I was trying to get at. That's how you know this Bible is prophetic, because it tells you about Alexander the Great coming into power before it even happened, and what was going to happen after. So it's First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 9. First Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 9. That's not it. First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 9. Shalakia. And after the death of Alexander, they all, talking about his generals, they all put crowns on themselves, and so did their sons after them. In many years, evils were multiplied in the earth. And that was the beginning of their kingdom, man. And that goes back to
is the mitochondria is the sun.
That goes back to let me see, I got it in here. I thought I had it in here. Just bear with me for a second. Can't find it right now. I know I had it in one of my lessons that I put out. Okay, yeah, 476 AD to 1492. And that was the time of the Dark Ages. It roughly goes into about 1,000 years. So that takes us to Revelation chapter 20, verse 2. And he laid hold of the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So that was a prophetic teaching that he would lose his power for a certain period of time, and then that's the wound being healed, and then he would come back, and he would regain power over the earth, and then he have a short time to deceive the whole earth, and rule over it. Revelation chapter 13, verse 3, and I saw one of the heads as they were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Let's talk about Esau Edom, man. He's the beast. He's that serpent that goes all the way back to being in the garden when he beguiled Eve, and he grew into this magnificent beast, that ruled over the earth. That's what he turned into. You have to realize the Bible always teaches in allegorical form. So let's go to Revelation chapter 13 real quick. And I stood upon the sand and sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns upon his horns, and 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of the heads as they were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And all this world, they marveled after Esau Edom, man. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, who was able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things in blasphemy, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy and against Yahweh, and blasphemed his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell therein. And they came out with the doctrine, with this Christianity, where they marred the word of the Lord, man. And they changed his name. They gave us Jesus Christ. They gave us this false image, this blonde hair, blue eyed, pale face image of Yahweh Bashem, of Yahushua. And like I said, that's their blasphemy, where they blaspheme the Lord. And then they forced this on our people, knowing you so-called Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And it was unto him to make war with the saints and overcome them. That power was given him of all kindreds and tongues and nations. And he's been making war with our people, with the saints of our people, ever since he came into power. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose name was not written in the book of the life of Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And we know Esau Edom, he rules. You go into the petrodollar, that rules over the world, where all trade has to be done in the petrodollar. But America, Babylon the Great, gets his strength from his sword, man. That's what makes everybody submit to him, because of his sword. And by his sword, he's going to be destroyed, because of, he that live by the sword shall be destroyed by the sword. And so his sword is going to turn back on him. It's going to be used against him. These devices, devices of war, these destructive devices, going to be turned back on Esau Edom, and it's going to bring him out of power. But you can read further into it. It goes into the beast and his power, and the 10 horns, talking about the 10 EU nations, man, and them giving power to the beast, to the whore that sits upon the beast, and the whore that sits upon the beast is America, Babylon the Great. But the EU nations, talking about Germany, France, UK, to name a few, it makes up 10, but actually it's more than 10 now in the EU Union. But we're seeing that being broken up now, and we know we're at the last days of this prophecy. And like I said, there's all type of nuclear alerts that continue to go off. I was watching the brothers from New Jersey, GMS New Jersey. They was going into how these alerts keep coming off, nuclear alerts, and they're warning, the people to get ready. And they're not outright saying it, but things are happening that lets you know, we're in a dangerous time, man, and things are going to pop off real soon. So we have to be on our alert at all times. How we be on our alert? We don't put no fear in man. We put our fear in Yahweh Bashem, Yahushua. We're gonna need the faith of the saints of old, man, like the faith that Moses had, and Aaron and Elijah and Elisha that they had. That's the type of faith that we're gonna need in these times, man. Not to fear what man can do, but fear what our Lord can do. Because once you put your fear in the Lord, He's the one that's going to deliver us in these times, man, from out of the hand of the wicked. And He's going to, and we're not going to just leave out of it. We're going to go into our kingdom, man, and being royalty. We're going to be enriched. Thus saith the Lord. So we just have to hold on, man, and endure. Stay vigilant in this truth. It's gonna be some highs and lows. Right now we're in the low, but shit might pick up in the next day or two, or anytime. We don't know, but we know that we're very close to the end of this thing. So with that being said, man, Lord with us, lessons edifying. With that, say shalom.